Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. The live is about a few hour and a half late, but Jazakallah khair, everybody, inshallah ta'ala, whenever you'll be seeing it. Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you all, bless your families, protect your families, and grant everybody barakah and afiyah. Ameen, sum ameen. Today, inshallah ta'ala, so my book came out, No One Taught Me This, alhamdulillah, and it's on Amazon. So the UK people can get it, the North American people can get it. It's available in Australia, I believe, in different parts of the world. Unfortunately, it's still not available in India, but the work has been going on it. So no one taught me this. And today's topic, without further ado, like the email said, it's going to talk about three most important things. Now, as simple as it may sound, acknowledgement, validation, and asking open-ended questions. What I have seen over and over again is that we do not know how to acknowledge because we assume that this person understood that I understood. And that is why usually parents, when they say something to their children and the children do not respond back, you're like, did you hear me? And they're, yeah, I heard you. Or sometimes if the parent is in a higher pick and uses a higher pitch, did you hear me? And the child goes like, yeah, I heard you. God, I did. And I heard you in the first time. What's happening? There's no acknowledgement. But before the child does not know how to acknowledge to the parent, does the parent acknowledge the child? Anybody who has a toddler and a 3 or a 4 or a 5 or a 6-year-old, they know you cannot live without acknowledgement. You keep acknowledging your child because they're like, they do not budge. They ask you the same thing about 200 times. And when they are satisfied that you have acknowledged them 400 times, only then will they budge, right? Acknowledgement at that time becomes very irritating. It's like, oh God, I told you yes. But what are they doing? They're trying to build the trust. They're trying to understand that if she is saying yes, her yes means yes, not the Arab inshallah, but the Islamic inshallah, right? So first is acknowledgement. In our spousal conversations, we do not know how to acknowledge. We listen to each other. The wives are busy, the husband is talking, the husband said something. Okay. Now, okay is still an acknowledgement, but the kind of acknowledgement that I'm talking about is look at the person and acknowledge, even if it's an adult. Teenagers are usually adult people. We teach them respect by respecting them, right? So, and I have given in the book, I have given a few examples of how to acknowledge. And I've written, acknowledgement is the act of recognizing or admitting something. For example, if a child tells their parent about a difficult day at school. Now this is a good example to begin with. If a child tells a parent about a difficult day at school, the parent might respond with acknowledgement such as, how do you give acknowledgement? I can see that you had a tough time today. It sounds like you feel frustrated and upset. This response shows the parent is effectively listening to the child and acknowledging their feelings and experiences. So you just did not say, oh, really? Okay. Now, I know that acknowledgement and validation can be interchanged. For example, somebody might just say, oh, you had such a tough day. I'm so sorry, beta. Like, I'm so sorry that you had a tough day. Well, that sounds really rough. Now, what are you doing? You are basically validating them while you're also acknowledging them, right? The response, usually the response is, uh-huh, mm-hmm. And then we start giving them advices. So don't sit with them next time. Don't talk to her next time. Let me talk to your teacher next time. Do you want me to talk to your teacher? You know what? In this parents' meeting, I'm going to bring up this with your teacher. We start looking for solutions before we acknowledge, before we validate. Before we acknowledge, before we validate. If anybody is listening, even in our adult conversations, our husbands, what do they do? If we are venting out to them about something, the first thing they do is, okay. Usually the ones who are in the later years of marriage, they have learned they don't say anything that bothers us too. And the one who is in the earlier years of marriage and they think that they can fix our problem, they say, okay, I'll do this, or why can't you do this, or why can't you do this, or why do you don't do this, or why, and the why irritates and bothers us even more. I have seen applied, and actually it has helped my clients along the way when they learn to stop, pause, acknowledge, and validate, right? And then I continue to write. Often, as parents, we may unintentionally dismiss our child's emotion, dismissing anybody's emotion for that matter. I remember that my husband says a number of times, he says, "You just dismissed me," and I'm like, "This is my line. Usually, wives are like, you dismissed me, husband. You were telling me that I dismissed you. I did not dismiss you. I listened to everything." He said, "No, you did not. You did not. How do I know that you did?" And the argument goes on. "I did, you did." And then I start like a parrot, I repeating everything that he said. And he's like, "But it didn't feel like you did." I said, "I just repeated everything that you said." The word dismissal does not mean that we are undermining them. It is that it seems, because there's no acknowledgement, even if there's that is not acknowledgement. Remember this. Is not acknowledgement. It is not. I remember my daughter once, she had a whole long story, and this particular child of mine, she does not finish the story very quickly. She has to have some time to finish her story, whatever she needs to narrate to me, whatever incident, whatever thought process. And so I was doing something. So, first of all, I did not, I was like, okay, I know her story is going to be long, so I'm not going to look at her, but I'm going to say, And then in the midway, she started, she said, "Stop saying that. It's not nice. I don't feel nice." I said, "Why? I am listen. How will you know that I'm listening to you?" And then she says, "Just look at me. Look at me." And I stopped. And then I remember Prophet ﷺ used to look at the people who were addressing him, turn his body, turn his face, sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, and listen to them. It seems in today's world where you have your phone and you're texting and somebody else messaging you and something else happening to you, it seems as if it's okay. People understand. But Allahu Akbar, human psyche has not changed since the time of Adam alayhi salam. We have fine-tuned it. We have found words and labels for complex emotions and understanding, but the innate need to be seen and to be heard at the same time has not changed. This is not about social media age. This is not about texting age. This is not about distraction age. This is about what is the need of a human being, whether they're young, whether they're old, whether they're older, right? Okay. So by acknowledging our child's feelings, we show them that we understand and respect their perspective, and that we are there to support them through the challenges. Good. Now, what is validation? Now, validation refers to the act of confirming or verifying the truth, accuracy, or effectiveness of something. In the context of a parent child relationship, validation can refer to the act of acknowledging child's emotions. It was very difficult for me to understand validation. And even today, I struggle sometimes because the first thing that I do is, "It's okay, it's fine. Okay, so you did it, fine." And it's not like I have to solve problems. So I have older children now, alhamdulillah. So they solve most of their problems by themselves, except when they have sibling quarrels. Then it's difficult. Then it becomes like high emotions, high pitches running in the house, yelling, right? And at that time, validation becomes very difficult. Why? Because you can see that one is acting not okay, and the other is just reacting to the first one's action. And so you're like, what is wrong with all of you? Yeah. In your head as a parent, you are like, why is it so difficult to honor each other's requests? Why is it so difficult to listen to each other? And of course, they have a backstory to it. Of course, they want to yani they're frustrated or whatever is happening. So what is a mother's validation at that point when your children are fighting, and when your children are using abusive language or maybe even hitting towards each other, or the most common example that is used in every single book, whether it's Western teacher psychologist, what is it? It is um, when they don't want to share a toy, when they don't want to share a toy, when they hit their cousin or their friend, when they're on a play date and they start fighting. How do you validate Emotionally dysregulated child's emotionally dysregulated child at that moment, what do you say to them? Don't share. How dare you do this? This is not good. Why did you do this? Don't you know we don't do this to others? We don't hit people. Don't you understand? Haven't you learned this in your school? All of these are not validations. And and like I'm saying, it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to validate somebody when we are perceiving them to be doing a wrong action. So parenting, one of the things that I teach in our inner circle, inner supportive tribe, is how to uh, self-regulate yourself and then co-regulate. And I write about that in this book as well. How to self-regulate and how to co-regulate. And I give examples and I give coaching tips about it, right? And so the thing is, okay, they say that look at the behavior. The behavior of the child stems out of a need. Now, majority of the mothers say to me, well, if they're not going to learn at this age, when are they going to learn? And if their need is not to share, when am I going to teach them taqwa and tawakkul, and sharing is caring? And when am I going to teach them? Number one, we teach them these things not in their highly dysregulated moments, but in their normal nervous system moments. Yani in day to day, when they're not in a rush, when we are not in a rush, when they are not hyped up, when we are not hyped up, when they are not struggling with something, when we are not struggling with something, when we are not rushing them, when they're not rushing us, when a conversation can be held without getting hyper about the whole situation. That is when we teach them learning skills. Okay. But in the situation, for example, I will give a similarity. For example, in war zone. In a war zone, what are you doing? In a war zone, you don't tell, let's talk about peace. The guns are pointed towards each other. What do? We disengage. Somebody can write down this word, disengage. And how do you disengage? You hold the child. If they're younger children, you look at them and you say, acknowledge you don't want to share. They'll say, no, I don't want to share. No. I remember, and while I'm talking, I just remember my eldest son. He and my middle daughter, they're 2 years apart. So my younger one would follow him everywhere, do everything that he would do. And one day, he's 4 years old at that time, and he comes to me and says, Mama, tell Ramin, stop copying me, okay? She copies me all the time. I still remember his expression, Mama, wo mujhe copy karti jati hai. It was so cute. It was so cute. And Ramin, she's listening to her brother and she says, I don't copy you all the time. I never do that. And she was doing exactly what he was doing just 5 seconds ago, going in circles. So I know this for a fact, that it is very difficult to, as an adult, to think that this is logically solvable, but it is. We just have to trust ourselves, and then the process. So you take the child, look at them, and you ask them, number one. So somebody can even say, do you feel okay? And they will say, no, I'm not okay, depending upon the child's vocabulary. If they're more younger, if they don't have that much of a vocabulary, hold them close. If they're the ones who are so highly dysregulated that they're slapping or kicking, then hold their hands and say, I will not allow you to hurt me like this. I will not allow you to hurt me like this. We will talk when you are calm. I'm here with you. I'm standing right here. I love you, but sweetheart, we don't hit like this. Okay, these are acknowledgements, as well as not validations, but at least telling the person that I'm here with you, because they need to calm down. When you all understand this as adults, we all understand this, when we are yelling and somebody gives us a glass of water and somebody says, okay, sit down, calm down, suddenly we have this logical switch go up, like, oh, what am I doing, right? The kids, usually they don't have it. They're in their developmental stages, right? And instead of telling them at their highly dysregulated moment that they have to behave, will never ever go down well. It's not going to go down well. And I know for a fact, that in a child's highly dysregulated state, we tell them, you need to behave, why did you do this? And then the child goes from not they don't calm down, they actually just go to the free state because of the amount of yelling, or if we slap them, or if we use hitting towards them, or if we hit back because they're hitting, or if we thrush them, or if we like yani do any sort of, if we used any sort of physical strength against them because they were using it towards us. And what is happening when somebody, we feel, what does our brain tell us when we see that what that somebody is physically threatening us? We want to stop them. We want to stop them. And it is easier to stop a child because they are smaller and weaker rather than an adult, right? You stop an adult too. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect everybody from going through any sort of physical abuse, any sort of hitting. But with children, it's okay, it's common, it's normal because they are dysregulated easier and they have their logic building right now happening to them. And if they are in that high state, we need to help them calm down by letting them know that we love them. It's okay. This, and I'm right here, and I will listen to you, but let's first take a few breathing steps. Teach them breathing. We don't know how to breathe ourselves, like how to calm down ourselves. How will we teach our children? So learn the breathing techniques, teach them the breathing techniques so that before that moment arises, they know how to redirect themselves. That is teaching self regulation. We need to learn self regulation. Let's say a child comes from school and shares with their parent that they received a low grade or test they studied hard for. The parents respond as, "You should have studied harder," or "Why didn't you do better?" This response invalidates the child's feelings of disappointment and frustration and can make them feel like their efforts were not enough. Instead, if the parent responds with validation such as, "I know you worked really hard on this," or "I'm sorry you didn't get the grade you wanted," or "It's okay to make mistakes and we can work together to improve next time." Now, these sentences can help the child feel heard, understood, and supported, right? Instead, what do we mothers say? We said, "I told you 230 times, put that game back, stop scrolling on the phone. You were not listening. Now, see, this has happened. This was about to happen. This was bound to happen. Now, this has happened. Now, this has happened." What purpose is that serving? What purpose is that serving? Except for we are angry and we are just venting out our anger. We're just venting out our anger. What does it do for the relationship? It doesn't do anything for the relationship. Implementing acknowledgement and validation in adult relationships. And I write about this as well because I know that we talk about parenting, but we also recognize that without having good spousal relationships, without having good communication with your spouse, how will we model it to our children? They need to see something to learn something, right? And so I write here, a dialogue between a parent and a child, acknowledgement in parenting. Parent: "Hey, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge your effort in completing your homework independently. I've noticed how hard you've been working and how you stayed focused until the very end. Your determination and commitment to your studies are truly admirable." Now, I'm not saying you to say this every single time, but if you know that a child is starting a new, for example, new school year has started, and they're struggling and they're coping and they're doing their best or they're trying their best, even if they're whining, acknowledging them helps boost their self-esteem, right? And so there's a whole dialogue between a conversation between a parent and their teen going through their meltdown. Again, the whole conversation is there. Acknowledgement in a spousal discourse, a whole example is there in this book. So what does validation look like in a conversation? Let's moving forward to what does validation look like in a conversation. "I understand that you're feeling upset right now. It's okay to feel that way." How many times do we say that to our teens who are upset or who are giving us a snappy attitude? We don't. We say, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And I know this for a fact. I have three teens, so I know I'm taken aback. I'm surprised. Why am I surprised? I'm surprised because you were fine just 2 minutes ago. What happened to you? And I don't have, as adults, we want to know a logic. We want to have a logical explanation to things that we don't understand. But with our children, we need to understand this softness, this hem we need to create, that even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lets go of us. Like He doesn't like hold us accountable for every single just that we do with our hand, with our face. It's okay to let go. What the counter argument is, if I ignore this, they will do this. I'm not saying ignore it. I'm saying ask them, number one, when it's safer in your head to ask them, or when you are able to extend them that compassion and empathy that they are going through something. It's not that they are going to stay like in a grumpy mood for the rest of their life. It's just a moment, and this moment is difficult for me, and this moment might be difficult for them too. That is the empathy and compassion that we need to create for us and for them in our head when they snap. And how, and you can say, I understand that something is going on with you, however, and now the boundary is, this is, I will not accept this behavior. It's okay, calm down, and we will get back to this conversation. You said, I will not accept this behavior is the right kind of a boundary. And then right away, you're not asking them or demanding them to repeat. What is our problem? Our problem is we say, repeat what you said. You repeated what you said, and then I'll let you know, blah, blah, blah. No, you're not in a war zone. This is your child. You love your child. You are not going to do that to yourself, to them, because your stress hormone, your cortisol is up and their cortisol is up. Who is going to make sense in this conversation? Nobody. So even if this is with your spouse, even if this is with your other relationships, I understand you might be feeling upset right now, or you are upset right now. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel, this is when nobody's snapping at you. It is okay to feel that way, that you're recognizing something, right? I can see that the situation is difficult for you. Your feelings are valid. Even if somebody is being an ungrateful donkey, just let them breathe for a minute. They're not in the position where you can make them realize. Toxic positivity, if you've heard this term, toxic positivity is not letting the other person say whatever they need to say and just stay calm at that time. I know that we want our children to know that there is hunger and there is war and there is famine and there is diseases and there is death and there is inflation, and people are not living the best of their lives right now. I know. We want our children to be grateful. We want our children to stop demanding for things and for food from outside and from doing extra expenditures. Yes, it is absolutely true. But when they are, and if they are in a state of not making sense, we need to step away, because maybe I can't deal with this right now. So I will just tell them, you know what, I see that something is not okay right now here. I'll step away. I'll step away. The other day, two of my kids, they were at each other's throats. Like one was just like saying something, and the other one was so agitated that even when the first one did like this, she was like, why did you do this to me? And I was in the other room, and I started walking towards them, and they both knew that something is coming to us. And the one who was just doing a gesture, and she wasn't doing a gesture to irritate, she did it for a reason, like, right? And I said, why did you do this? You know, you can see clearly that she's not in a state to process your anything. So just disengage. There's no need to keep talking to her when you know that she's already extremely frustrated. And so after some time, the one that was frustrated, she came back to me and she said, do you think I'm mad? Do you think I'm something is wrong with me? I said, no, I could clearly see that you were not okay. And I told the other one to disengage with you because that was not fair to you. When you're not able to think clearly, when you're not able to process something clearly, you should be allowed to breathe, to calm down. And that is what we did. Okay. Another, I'm sorry that you're going through this. It's understandable that you're feeling overwhelmed. Do we know even how to say, I can see that you're feeling overwhelmed? Do we say this? We all speak in English, but do we use the word, I see you are overwhelmed? I'm sorry that you are overwhelmed. We don't use it. I hear that what you're saying, and I understand how you're feeling. It's okay to feel that way momentarily. It's okay to feel that way. It's natural to feel angry or upset in this kind of situation. Your feelings are valid and I support you. I'm not saying your logic is valid. I'm saying your feelings are valid and I support you. Sometimes we don't know what to say. So if you're uncertain, it's helpful to clarify by saying something like, it sounds like you might be feeling whatever it is that accurate? You can even ask with your teens. You can actually ask them. The power of communication with the teens is that they feel that they are being treated like an adult, and they are being asked, right? They are being asked. Now please, all of these situations, All of these examples are being used where the parent and the child are used to talking to each other. I have a parent child case. I'm the child's coach. She's a young adult, and she has other severe yani things happening in her life, and for years now she has not been speaking to her parents except for the part where she needs something, she goes to them, but she cannot express her emotions to them, and she doesn't talk. So these examples are not for those extreme conditions. These examples are not for those extreme conditions where the parent and the child has so much to repair in between them. This is for every day, for you and me, everyday conversations where things are going in a better, smoother place. Jazakallah khair, Miji. So you need to Jazakallah khair. You need to recognize these things, and you need to understand how and where what to use. If somebody could give me in a comment that they're following through. Okay, and the last thing, and again, this is from the book, Comparing Validation and Invalidation. Validation in parenting sounds like, I understand that you're upset because your friend didn't invite you to their party. It's natural to feel hurt in situations like this. Your feelings are valid. I'm here to listen and support you. Something happened between friends, and I just gave an example. Invalidation, how would that sound? Oh, it's just a party. You're overreacting. There's no need to be upset. It's not a big deal. Does any wife remember how many times their husbands have invalidated them? That's our problem in our marriages. The invalidation or the gaslighting is usually the problem. We say the person is good, the person is good, the person is good, the person is overall good, but how do we communicate? Because I hate it when they do this to me, but we don't have names for it. What are they doing? They're invalidating me, or I'm invalidating my spouse or my child, and I don't even realize that. And that's the problem, the difference between validation and invalidation, right? Now, somebody might come up and say, I'm teaching them to be resilient. They cannot cry boo hoo at everything. They are not going to cry boo hoo at everything. Why do you think validating someone, they're going to cry boo hoo? The sunnah of Prophet ﷺ was to validate people. He never said, he did say to the Sahaba whom he knew very well and in whose capability he knew that they had the capability to do better. Of course he taught them more. Of course he spoke to them more. Of course he taught, he reared them in that direction. But again, you have to see in those seerah moments when you're studying seerah, and please study seerah. I think like we study Quran, we need to study the seerah also, because it gives us so many valuable lessons. It helps us understand how to communicate, how to interact with different kind of people. And so Prophet ﷺ, usually he never invalidated anybody, whether the question was tough or whether it was a silly thing or whether it was an important thing. He never invalidated. Just look at it. So why do we think that if Prophet ﷺ, Rahmatul Alameen, never invalidated anybody, and those people did not go rogue, our kids would, if we validated them? Do not, and again, I say to these parents, I say, have confidence in yourself, have confidence in your tarbiyah. Everything at one point, like when you make a chicken soup, you don't add ingredients of broccoli cheddar soup to it, right? You make chicken soup, you make chicken soup. Every situation has its own ingredients. Every situation will work according to what you think is good for them, or you can at least at that time logically understand what's good for you in this situation. You'll use that, right? Okay, bismillah. Validation and marriage argument. Spouse one says, I can see why you're frustrated. You've been working long hours and it must be exhausting. Your feelings of being overwhelmed are valid, and I'm here to help and support you. And validation in marriage argument, you're always stressed out. It's just work. Everyone deals with it. You're just making a big deal out of it. This is nothing. Everybody works. You're not the only person working, right? Okay. Validation in parenting sounds like, I appreciate your effort in trying to solve the problem on your own. It shows your independence and problem solving skills. I'm proud of you for taking the initiative. This sentence, oh my God, this sentence is so important. I think we should memorize it in our heads, and we should use them every time our child of any age is trying to do something while creating a mess, or they're not able to do it, or they said that they would do it but they feel overwhelmed in the midst of it. So this is what you will use. So this is what you will use. And invalidating in parenting would be, you shouldn't have even tried to do it yourself. You're too young to handle such tasks. Let me take care of it. Yeah. Or I knew from the very beginning you're not going to do it. Okay, you wouldn't have ever done it. You should have listened to me. You should have listened to me. You should have listened. Come on, it's not helping. The next time they're not going to do anything. They're not even going to initiate anything. In my younger years, I did not help my mom in the chores around the house, except for I think vacuuming and washing the dishes. And I think laundry was the chore that she needed most help with, and that was the one that I ran away from ironing to. And I used to wonder, why am I was I very inconsiderate of her? Was I not cognizant of the fact that she has wrist issues and it's difficult for her? And you know what my mom did? She used to get mad at us, and then she realized we're not going to budge, and then she hired somebody to iron our clothes. That was a good solution. That was a good solution. And she could afford it, so that was good for her. In that situation, it was good. But if we are in situations where we can't afford outside help, and we need outside help, or we need our parents or our children to step up, we need to have those conversations. Somebody asked me, like, how many times am I supposed to ask them? I said, as many times as needed, and as calmly as needed. Because if it is a family thing, then yes, respectfully, we keep bringing up that conversation, and we bring everybody to the table, and we say this: you don't like that I keep repeating these things. I don't like that need to keep asking you, what is the solution to this? And then have an accountability to this. I think we've lost faith in people's goodness overall. We've lost faith in people's goodness and the ability of them to do good. We can expect a stranger to do good, and that is wow, and we post it on our social media. But what about the goodness that we do towards each other in our homes? Why don't we believe in each other's goodness? So again, validation in a marriage argument. I understand that a spouse is saying, I understand that you're feeling neglected, and it's important to me that you feel loved and appreciated. Your emotions are valid. I want to work together to improve our connection. Right? This is a validation. This is all any wife would love to hear this, right? And how would the invalidation sound like? Stop being so sensitive. I don't see why you're making such a big deal out of this. It's not like I'm intentionally ignoring you. And this sentence we mothers say to our children, fathers say to their children, spouses say to each other. So we need to understand that. And in the end, I say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala acknowledges and validates prophets and believers several times in the Quran. In Surah Hijr, ayah number 97, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we certainly know that your heart is truly distressed by what they say. In Surah Fatir, ayah number 8, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so do not grieve yourself to death over them, O Prophet. Surely Allah is all knowing of what they do. In Surah Nahl, ayah 127, 128, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, oh, be patient, O Prophet, for your patience is only with Allah's help. Your patience is only with Allah's help. Ya Allah, allow me patience. Ya Allah, give me patience, grant me patience to deal with intellect and with wisdom with my loved ones. Ameen. Jazakallahu khair. I hope, inshallah ta'ala, this was helpful. You learned some tips, how to validate, how to acknowledge, how not to invalidate. Inshallah ta'ala, please buy this book. No one taught me this. And if you buy this book, I would really appreciate if you give reviews, because the more good reviews it has, the more the book is seen on the internet, on Facebook. It's on Facebook or on social medias. It pops out more faster in general on Google search as well. So it's important. It's important for the author to keep going, right? Inshallah ta'ala, for many, many more books to come. This one is my first. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it source of goodness and guidance for the ummah. Ameen. No one taught me this is available on Amazon. Jazakallahu khair. Until next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.